like many other people, am an absolute huge fan of the Fallout game series. In many ways, more so than the Elder Scrolls series. Fallout, I've always loved the lore of it. I've always loved this juxtaposition between the world before, this kind of crazy world before the bombs, and then, you know, what it turned into afterwards. I can't turn around and say that I have been in it since the beginning. You know, I wasn't there with Fallout 1 or 2. I got into the game in Fallout 3. But I've loved Fallout 3 New Vegas and Fallout 4. One day I might go and play Fallout 1 and 2, but there's so many good games coming out that who's got the time for that, right? Anyway, so if you don't know the news anyway, and it's kind of taking you by surprise, then Bethesda Game Studios, who make the Fallout series and the Elder Scrolls series, they released this teaser saying "Please stand by." It had the kind of classic kind of like TV card thing, you know, and so everyone's like, "Whoa, what's this? You know, is there some sort of announcement coming?" At that point, I didn't think we were going to see anything too amazing. The massive rumours were that we were going to see a Fallout 3 remaster. I was very much up for that because I'm a massive fan of Fallout 3 and I'd love to see it get remastered. Same with New Vegas as well. I'd love to play through those games again on modern hardware, you know, in a better game engine, etc. Who knows? We might still get that. I don't know. But then after the kind of like a little while after the kind of Twitter announcement, their Twitch channel went live with this weird kind of scene of this bobblehead Vault Boy with a TV in the background with "Please stand by" on. And so we're like, wow, we can actually get some sort of announcement here. It was clear it was going to be Fallout, obviously, with the bobblehead and everything like that. But that ran like that, with various little interruptions, such as someone throwing balloons in, or a hand puppet, or, you know, Pete Hines coming in with having a drink and a party or something like that. Various little interruptions, but it ran for, must have been about 15-16 hours before we actually got a trailer. And when we got the trailer for Fallout 76, as I'll just play here. We still don't really know any details on Fallout 76. We know that, well, we know a few things actually, and I'll kind of pause just to kind of give my little thoughts on this trailer. So it starts up in the same way that all kind of Fallout trailers start. That is with this kind of like radio, which is just kind of flickering on, the vacuum tubes in the background there, and then it always has like an iconic song to it. They've all worked like that basically. And yeah, it starts to kind of zoom out a little bit. And we see a Pip-Boy, we see a date there, 27th of October, 2102, 0634. Now I believe it was 2077 in Fallout lore is the year the bombs dropped. So that's the year the world as they knew it ended. So this is 25 years later. So that makes it the earliest, if this is the date the game is set in, that makes it the earliest Fallout game that has existed so far. The previous earliest one I think was Fallout 1. I think they actually went chronologically, I believe anyway. So it went 1, 2, 3, 4, and New Vegas I think was around the same time as 3, maybe just after. So I think they go kind of chronologically, but this one has jumped right back to 25 years after the bombs dropped. The most recent one, Fallout 4, I think it's like 100 and something years after the bombs dropped, something like that. I can't quite remember offhand. So we see that Pip-Boy, and it's quite a hefty looking Pip-Boy. It's got his alarm, and pretty soon we realise that it's the inside of a vault. Interestingly, I don't know if we can read much into the graphical style, but one thing I thought of when I saw this graphical style was it was very simplistic. It doesn't look like it's going for a kind of realistic, it almost feels a little bit cartoony in a way. So yeah, kind of almost that, like Fortnite crossed with Fallout 4, you know, in a way. Not the kind of gritty realism we often see a Fallout game have, and obviously, oh, whoops, sorry, I clicked away. And obviously, we don't see the we don't really see the gritty reality in this trailer either. So let's kind of just play through again because I clicked outside. Sorry. The music in the background I'm not going to play just in case we get copyrighted, but I think it's like West Virginia. I don't know the exact song, but people are now suggesting it's going to be set in West Virginia. Would be weird if it wasn't. It would be a bit of a troll by Bethesda, but they've done things like that in the past, let's face it. The Jangles the Moon Monkey, they're familiar to those who've played Fallout 4. I like the way this changes over to good evening to good morning, that's pretty cool. And we can see what looks like maybe remnants of a night, the Blast Radius games, the little TV. They're talking about Vault 76 there, so the 76 in Fallout 76, we believe anyway, pretty likely that it is referring to Vault number 76. Now, interestingly enough, Vault number 76 has been mentioned before in Fallout. It's been mentioned in Fallout 3 and it's been mentioned in Fallout 4. In Fallout 3 there's some mention of it as a control vault with around 500 inhabitants. By control vault, what they mean is that it wouldn't have had any experiments done on it. So what they mean by control is if you were running, say, a clinical trial on a drug, you would have a certain number of patients who was maybe suffering from a disease go on the drug, and you'd have a certain number of patients not go on that drug, and that would be your control group, so you could see the effectiveness of that drug against it. So Vault 76 was a control vault, therefore they didn't have any crazy experiments that we often see in the Fallout world on it, that we know of anyway. Of course, you know, that's just a minor note in Fallout 3. It doesn't necessarily have to be the law, but that's what we know in Fallout 4. We learned that the vault opened, I think it was 3 years before the war, and it's kind of mentioned in there as one of the kind of newish vaults that Vault-Tec have opened as well, so it is mentioned before. Interestingly, on this table we can see we've got Cappy from Nuka World, we've got the Mr. Gutsy like little model there, as well as Vault Boy, and I think that's like some Grognak, and Scout Life, I think it is, comics underneath there as well, which are all well known. Outstanding Achievement Award, things like that here, so maybe this person's quite athletic. So it looks quite empty, but we see a lot of stuff. This is you're invited there to a party, I guess. And the remnants of what else we see looks like there's been a party. We see in the background it says Reclamation Day there. There's been party balloons. I like the little soccer pitch they've got going on down here as well. It's pretty cool. And yeah, it looks like there's been a big party as well. And then we have Vault Dweller from Vault 76, as we see. Strap on a Pip-Boy and I guess get ready to go out. And we see the logo of Fallout 76. And that's pretty much it. As I said, we know about Fallout Vault 76 that it was a control group and it was due to open 20 years after the bombs dropped. So it was supposed to be the first wave, I guess, of trying to reclaim the Earth after the bombs dropped. Now, the date at the beginning was 25 years after. So I guess you could read a couple of things into that. Either they've adjusted it for some reason, maybe within the vault the overseer decided to wait another 5 years Maybe the person we see there has been in the vault for 5 years after the rest of the people left. Who knows? Because we don't see anybody else in there. We can speculate at this moment. There's bigger things to speculate about, but I find that quite interesting, that little detail, that because Bethesda are very, very good at lore, okay, and that's a very deliberate thing that they would have changed there by 5 years. Like, they would have known that they would have said it was due to open 20 years after, and they wouldn't have made that mistake. So it's an important thing to remember. Yeah, and so we saw the trailer, but that's all we saw. And Bethesda said that, we'll learn more details at E3. Great. People have speculated about what this game is going to be. My personal opinion is we're not going to see a Fallout game as we know it. So my first thought was we might get something completely different, like a city builder or something like that, like going out and trying to reclaim the wasteland, a la like something like the, maybe like the Jurassic World game that's coming out soon, Jurassic World Evolution, or like City Skylines, something along that line, which could be quite cool. Or I thought maybe we'd get something completely different, like a Telltale series style game or something like that. But a well-respected journalist by the name of Jason Schreier from Kotaku came out and said that he had multiple sources who have said that the game is going to be a online survival game akin to something like DayZ or Rust, something like that, which is interesting. Firstly, I never expected us to see this, even when they were announcing there was a game. I never for 1 second thought we were going to get like Fallout 5 or something like that. It's only been 3 years since Fallout 4. That's not a long time, and when you think that Fallout 4 had very comprehensive DLC coming out like a year later, that would only leave like 2 years. You can't make another game in like 2 years. They could effectively maybe have, like, in the same way they did with Fallout 3, give a different game company access to their engine and then make a game on that. Obsidian did that with New Vegas. Obsidian tweeted out and said, this is nothing to do with us, don't get excited for New Vegas 2 or something. But the other interesting point here as well, which I saw, I think it was Gopher mention, is that at the end of this trailer we see Bethesda Game Studios and the Bethesda logo. We see no other game studio logo. So if they did happen to like give this out to a different company, it seems unlikely because they haven't advertised that there. And if a complete different studio made the game under license, say from Bethesda or something, then they would be on there. You would imagine that would be a contractual kind of thing, but they didn't. So this suggests that it's being made, and I think Jason Schreier confirmed, or these sources confirmed, that it's being made at the Bethesda head offices in I think it's I never know how to pronounce it. Is it Maryland or Maryland? However it is there, as well as partly in a new studio they had in Austin in Texas, I believe. So that's interesting because that's like the main studio, where they make the Elder Scrolls games, they make Fallout 4 and all those games, They have different studios who make like Dishonored and Doom and, places like that, but this is like their bread and butter studio, as it were. Which says to me that they're taking this game very seriously. It's not going to be a mobile port game like a Fallout Shelter or something like that. There's nothing wrong with Fallout Shelter, but it is a mobile game. It does as much as a mobile game can do, really. As I said, my initial thought was maybe we'd get an expansion of Fallout Shelter, into a kind of more City Skylines 3D kind of world building kind of thing, and that would have been cool. If we weren't going to get like a Fallout 3 remaster, which I also really wanted. let's think about a Fallout game in which is a survival online game. I mean, that's interesting to say the least. I'm working on the assumption that that's pretty much what it's going to be. A couple of reasons. Thinking about the fact that they've already announced, Bethesda, that Rage 2 is coming out. Rage 2 to me looks like it's a single player experience. It's going to be a narrative story set in a post-apocalyptic world. Would they really also release Fallout 76 potentially in the same year if that was the same similar thing? You know, RPG like open world, you know, narrative story. Like they wouldn't do that. Which is why I think everyone was surprised about Fallout in the first place. They've also they haven't really announced anything else, but they kind of said at the time that before the next Elder Scrolls they're going to release 2 IPs, original IPs they said, and they've said that there's this game called I think it's Starfield or something like that, which has been rumoured for a long time anyway. We don't really know what it is, but it's kind of like a space RPG, I believe, something like that, but we don't know anything else, so it's interesting. But yeah, I didn't think they would release that in the same year as like Rage, and my opinion is that we'll see Fallout 76 this year as well, or at least early next year. I don't think Bethesda are now doing the long drawn out kind of announcements. I think when they get a game, they saw the success of Fallout 4 based upon that kind of 6-month turnaround of announcing the game, you know, short, sharp advertising, and then release the game, you know, and let the game do the talking, as it were. And obviously, I guess the Fallout brand is very, very strong right now, so it will be interesting to see what we get. But thinking about it as a online survival a la DayZ or Rust, or maybe even Conan Exile, something like that, it's very interesting because we haven't really seen a big company do that sort of game before. I guess you could argue that Division is a similar kind of thing, but you know, thinking about Fallout and what they did in Fallout 4 with the settlement building and stuff like that, you know, I would imagine it would be more along the lines of a Conan, as in you will have settlement building within there. Maybe even, I remember the original like H1Z1, which was supposed to be this thing of like, you know, building up your own base and going out to get resources. Just think of State of Decay or something like that. Could be really, really cool, especially with a big company with a big budget behind it and with an already pre-existing, in my opinion, fantastic lore and game world. I've been playing a lot of Fallout 4 recently, obviously for the channel. I'm quite a few videos ahead of what I have, and I just love the atmosphere of it. Now, obviously we have to think that it's only 25 years after the bombs. By the way the timing works out, you wouldn't have super mutants at that point, potentially, unless they could find some reason that would have happened earlier. And you might not have the big kind of mutated creatures like Deathclaws, etc. in there, because these things would have taken time for the mutations to continue to mutate and things like that. And I wonder how the world would look otherwise. But I'm excited, definitely, for Fallout 76. I'm not thinking, oh, this is going to be the biggest game of the year or something like that at all anyway. I'm thinking this could be like a nice surprise game that, you know, is fun to play, and that's kind of it. You know, I don't think this is going to be like oh, which one's going to be the game of 2018, this or Red Dead Redemption 2. In my opinion, like something like Red Dead is already, you know, miles ahead of you know, Fallout 76. But this could change, of course. Bethesda have their own E3 conference. I think it's on the Sunday. I'll be tuning in for sure, because, you know, everyone will now want to know what is Fallout 76. They've done some interesting things choosing to announce their games before E3, but I think it's worked because people are really hyped for their press conference now. Knowing that we're going to get to see more of Rage 2 as well as Fallout 76. Personally, the one thing that does slightly worry me about having this game, say similar to Daisy or whatever, with Fallout, is that one of the strengths of the Fallout series is the narrative and the stories, the side quests, the characters, so many memorable ones, so many great missions and quests and things like that that you do, and you could potentially lose that if you go into the more online kind of area, because it's more about making your own story there. Although you can have little bits of lore, obviously, going around. You could have an entire single player element to it, a la, the Division or whatever, and have multiplayer sections like the, Dark Zone, etc. You could do a lot of things, but that does worry me. And also the other thing that worries me is a lot of these games that release, which are the big MMO survival type games, or online, should we say, not really MMO I guess, is they come out and they are usually buggy as all hell. And let's face it, Bethesda do not have a good reputation when it comes to bugs. They usually get away with it because their game worlds are brilliantly crafted and their stories are usually excellent, and there's such an interesting thing going on that people often forgive the bugs, but they're there. And if you walk in, you perhaps don't have that story to keep you going and pushing through. Would their reputation for perhaps not exactly being the best developer when it comes to bugs, would that hurt them in a way? I don't know. We'll see. They've already got a lot of the pieces in place. When you think about the kind of base building, we've seen that in Fallout 4 already. People will be, love it or hate it. It's up to you. I personally love it. But we've seen, people do amazing things with that. Already has a lot of the enemies, the creatures, the factions, all sorts going on. So I think it could be really exciting. It could be cool. It would be fun to play with other people. Personally, I hope they do things like most of these games do, which is where they have private servers, because nothing worse than playing with trolls, just we could do without that, that's for sure. And yeah, we'll see. So many things could happen. This could be a free-to-play game with microtransactions. This could be a $20 or $30 game, like State of Decay, with a much pared down graphical style. I go back to the way the trailer looks. It doesn't look, for me, it doesn't look as it doesn't look like a Fallout game. It has a different look to it, so I'm intrigued as to what it's going to be, what they're aiming for here. Are they aiming for a AAA, survival online game? Are they aiming for just an interesting, side project to see how it goes? Because, as I said, this is really the first time a big company has actually moved into this space, and it would be really, really fascinating to see how well it does. When you look at the games like, say, Rust or Daisy, or I guess not so much Conan, but those two games, they're quite old now, and I feel like they took a long time to go from concept to full game. So that's what's interesting about Fallout 76. How long have they been making this game? Were they able to use the Fallout 4 engine? And did it not really require that much, programming? I guess not. Or maybe they just work really, really hard. I mean, I'm sure they work really hard, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah, so a lot to go. My personal take on it is that I'm excited, but my hope levels are low right now until we see more. Whatever it is, I'm sure I will be checking it out. As I said, I was really hoping for that Fallout 3 remaster or Fallout New Vegas remaster, or even like say the game's coming to Switch or something. Would have been awesome. I would have loved that. It could still happen. It's the 10th anniversary of Fallout 3 this year. We could still see that. I hope so, personally. As I said, there's so much to be excited for with this, but also just the fact that it's just wild speculation right now. We genuinely don't know, you know. All these sources on it could just be complete red herrings. You know, it could be something completely different. We don't know. But we'll know at the end of E3. I'll be doing, I'm sure, a video then, talking about what we've seen and what we're going to get. And yeah, it's exciting times. I think the other thing to consider as well, slightly off topic, but talking about the Elder Scrolls 6, the sequel to Skyrim, you know, maybe not the sequel to Skyrim. You know, a lot of people have been like, oh, when are we going to get this? When are we going to see this? I think the thing to consider with that, with Bethesda and the way they work, and the way just any creative person works, is the thing is about the Elder Scrolls 6 is it probably will be the most hyped game in video game history. Possibly the exception of the Grand Theft Auto series. Grand Theft Auto 6 would probably outdo it. But it will be immensely hyped, and it will be picked apart in every way, shape or form, because Skyrim has such a lasting legacy with people. I still play Skyrim, you know. It is an old game now, and 2011, 7 years, and it's old, but it's still getting released. And the reason why it's still getting released is because it's such a good game. Like, for whatever your opinion might be on certain things of it, overall it is a fantastic game. You know, in a video game, video game all time kind of history, it's going to be in the top 100 of pretty much everybody's game list. You know, it's a classic, and to follow that up, they've got to do something special. And I would say is that if they take their time with it, if we don't see a Elder Scrolls 6 anything about it until 2020 or 2022, something like that, as long as it's good, I'm okay with that, because you're talking about a game which is going to last for years. So a lot of people have said they're disappointed that they haven't heard anything about Elder Scrolls. We're not going to hear anything about Elder Scrolls for a while. It's certainly not this E3, I would imagine. Todd Howard, who's like the head of Bethesda Game Studios, has said that they are barely even thinking about it right now. Now, whether or not that's an exaggeration, you can only take the guy at what he's saying at face value. I'm sure there are people working on it, but I don't think they're even thinking about programming or anything. I think it's all concept right now. So, yeah, we'll see anyway. But, yeah, I guess that's my hot take on Fallout 76. I'm excited, but I'm also a little disappointed we haven't got a remaster of the older ones yet. But it's exciting to just see, that Fallout logo with a new game and what that could entail, As long as it's not a bloody battle royale, that would be terrible. But anyway, thank you for watching, guys. Let me know what you think. Let me know, by the time you're watching this video, you could know a lot more. Let me know what you think, what it's going to be. And I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.